Alright, masking tape. And why am I doing a masking videotape? Well, it started out I was going to do a video, or probably more than one, about using the Createx paints for car models. There's a lot to the stuff that people would need to know. Um, it's not typical just spray and done and treat the same as other paints and all. So I'm going to be doing probably a series. I don't know how many videos. I'm going to try to keep it as close as I can, but I'm going to get to a point in there where I'm going to be masking and showing that, and instead of me stopping at that point and talking what I think is very important stuff about masking, and eating up my Createx video with it, I decided, well, I'm going to go ahead and do this masking video first, and then I can just at that point refer the finer points, go back and look at my video for the little more detail about masking tape and stuff. But I'm going to try to keep this quick. We all know what masking tape is. I know a lot of guys use Tamiya. That's a great choice of masking tape, and there's a lot of reasons for it. But I also know that a lot of people try other tapes and may not be clear about masking tapes. Maybe a little foggy. If you go to Home Depot, you can get masking tape. And it's your typical tape. It might be different colors: blue, purple, wider, shorter. Here's some blue. But keep in mind that these are painters. It might say painter's tape, but it's for painting walls and trim and stuff. It is not the same painter's tape for cars, automotive, for painting on surfaces that are really smooth. And our car paint jobs are smooth, and you're masking on a smooth surface, almost glass-like in most cases. So let me explain a little bit about those tapes, okay, and why. If you look at this tape, this is your typical masking tape. And if you notice, it's on what's called crepe paper. And if y'all know about crepe paper, like at your birthday party, remember the crepe paper streamers? They have that texture. See this texture? That's crepe paper. And most of your masking tapes, especially at Home Depots and Lowe's and all that stuff, have this texture. Well, that texture is there for a reason. It actually makes the tape somewhat, very minute, but it makes it somewhat elastic. And the reason is because this is for painting on walls and trim. And if you look at your walls and your trim in your house, it is not a super glass finish. It's rough. It might be flat. You see roller bumps, streaks from brushes. A wall is not a super smooth surface. So when you tape it, and I may have to move my camera, but you can see the ridges and bumps and stuff on a smooth surface like this. That's not ideal. That is not an ideal surface. It needs to be smooth and sharp and thin and flat. To get a really crisp, sharp edge on a smooth surface, this stuff is not ideal. But then if you took this piece of tape and put it on a wall, you would see how it conforms to all the little lumps and bumps and stuff, and it does a great job on a wall, okay? But it works against itself on super smooth surfaces. So the first thing I would advise, if you're looking for tape for your models, don't get this stuff, okay? If it's got a texture, some are rougher than others, some are smoother. You get into, okay, painter's masking tape. And if you can see, this is 3M. Okay, let me find English writing. Masking tape for pro painting. And maybe some people say, oh, well, that's the stuff I need. It's masking tape for pro painting. Yeah, pro painting your house, because look, you still have the that conformal texture, okay? that's not ideal for painting on a super glass smooth surface. Now, I ain't saying it can't be done. I've done it. I mean, you can go through and just burnish that edge. You know, that's why people say, oh, you got to really burnish the edge down, and so on. You know why? Because you're using the wrong tape. You know, now you're having to take that out of it, that textured conformal roughness out of it. With a good tape, you really shouldn't have to do that, other than just to make sure that the tape is down. With a good painter's tape for automotive, they don't go around and scrub and fingernail down the edge, because you're not dealing with this textured tape to begin with, okay? Then you might get into some even further. You know, look at this stuff, okay? It doesn't have it. This is a painter's tape, but I got this from Sherwin-Williams, and this stuff could actually be used much better. It's much better, I should say, for smooth surfaces. It's real smooth. It's got kind of a waxy. This is some Sherwin-Williams brand. It's still paper, but it is smoother, a little nicer. You don't have to sit there and scrub that, you know, get all those ridges out, and so that's a step up. But you know what? This is still not really ideal, and I'll tell you why. Because it's paper tape, and paper tape is just inherently thick. And the problem with it being thick, I mean, it might seem thin to you, to your eye, to your eye or feel or whatever. But for really fine painting, especially on our little car models, it's pretty thick. And people say, well, I can get around that by just spraying lightly and not building up. Well, that doesn't work that way. You know, if the tape is thick, it's going to work against you. It doesn't matter how much paint you put down, even if you just mist it down, like just a solid layer. Because the distance from the top of this tape down to the surface, you've got this edge. The paint is going to go down that edge into the surface. So it doesn't matter how thin the paint is sprayed. It's still going to transition from however thick this tape is down this edge to the surface. So when you peel it off, even though the paint is on really thin, you still could have a pretty good ridge. So it does matter how thin the tape is. You can't fix it by just spraying it really thin. You can help it some, but it really doesn't cure that problem, okay? And what you'll end up doing is you'll end up having to spray a lot of clear coat. You'll have to end up spraying a lot more to kind of reduce that ridge. Now, of course, you can sand it and knock it down, but when you're dealing with the Createx paints, you can't do that, and that's another big reason that I'm doing this video, okay? Now, some people will go and use this stuff. Man, it's dirt cheap. It's thin. It's smooth. So that really does make this actually is not a bad tape for getting really good, thin, sharp edges. One thing I'll say is it's very tacky. This stuff is pretty high tack, and you want to stick with the lower tack tapes. I mean, this stuff is really sticky, unless you can. I guess they make low tack transparent tape. I mean, that would probably be better. But the stuff is so sticky, and if you can see, it's done picked up my fingerprints and everything. And then some people will say, well, yeah, you stick it on your arm or your forehead, and that'll knock it down, and it won't be so tacky. Well, personally, to me, I don't want to have dried skin and oil and stuff on my tape. That just because it's too tacky to begin. It's not the right tape. Okay. I mean, I know it's cheap and it'll work, and yes, and people can use any of these tapes and get them to work. But why fight it? Why not just spend the extra buck and get some good automotive painter's tape is what I'm saying. And I'm trying to express that there are differences and why there's differences. Most people use Tamiya. I use the fine line, 3M fine line. Same, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 3M makes the Tamiya tape. So, I mean, but Tamiya is very easily found. It's in hobby shops. It's good tape, and it's ideally the thickness, the texture, and everything for what we do. and of course the 3M is just as well. The big difference between 3M and fine line is the price. The fine line, or the Tamiya. A lot of the Tamiya I've seen is like it's 26 feet or something like that on a roll, I believe. You may get bigger rolls of it, I guess. I don't know, but most of the stuff I've seen is like 20-something feet or whatever, 30 feet, I don't know, somewhere in there. This stuff comes in 60 yards for the same price, okay? You can get every thickness. It's 60 yards for the same money, all right? It's 3, 4, 5 times in some cases the tape for the money. And that's why I get this. You need to go to an auto body shop, places like that, to get it, but it's well worth the trip. You can stock up and have tape that'll last you forever. For maybe $1 more than the roll, or a couple dollars more, but it's still the difference in price per foot is astounding. But you know, that's up to whoever. You know, I mean, Tamiya is easy to get. It's easy to find. It's proven good stuff. People are used to it. Stick with it. I guess I'm a little more of a miser on things. I'll go to an auto store. I'll get me a roll of all the different sizes. You know, spend 20, 30 bucks, but I've got tape to last me a lifetime. I've been using this tape for years and years. Another thing that I want to mention before I close up this video, because it's getting long, is protect your tape. Protect your painting tape. You know, use for your general everything but painting, masking tape, for you know, sticking stuff to paint and taping body parts together. Just use your junk tape. Use that. Keep this stuff, treat it like gold. As you'll notice, the Tamiya, usually it comes in a dispenser that protects the tape. Fine line comes in a bag. Typically I'll even put my tapes like this, I'll put it in a sandwich bag. And I'll tell you why, because if you take this tape and you throw it on your workbench, what's going to happen is it's going to pick up dust, dirt, debris. It's going to get nicked. I mean, it's inevitable. You can't avoid it. So you got to be real careful with your painter's tape. Keep it clean and sharp. You'll never get a sharp edge off of this, even if it was Tamiya or whatever, because it's going to be blurry. It's going to have fuzz on it. It's going to have nicks in it. You know, be real careful. It's real easy. It's a bad habit. I've got it where I'll take my tape and grab it and throw it down, and you know, before I know it, my tape is just covered with dirt and debris, and then you try to rub it off, and it just, you know, just pushes it in, nicks up the edges. That is a surefire way to ruin a nice roll of your painting tape, okay? Put it in a bag. Keep it in the bag. Even when you use it, when I get it out and use it, I'll throw it on top of my bag, because keeping that edge clean is crucial. That's crucial to a sharp edge, okay? And that was just the other little point I wanted to mention. Not trying to be preachy or anything, but be surprised how many people didn't think of that, maybe didn't even notice, and wonder, why can't I get that super crisp sharp edge like a lot of people do. One thing you can do to combat that is, if you do use some dirty tape, is go ahead and take a straight edge, cut that dirty edge off, and then use that new sharp edge for masking. You know, that's one way to kind of, you know, at least do that, okay? But anyway, thanks for watching.